I'm gonna have to ban you from the competition we're doing.
Well then, yeah, just don't count.
Huh? I mean, you can use any language. T-shirts. Yeah. If you come up to the ACM room, I bet we can get you a T-shirt. Okay, hello everybody. Is this, oh, we're not, Miguel, the HDMI went out or something? Is it this? Oh, the cable is kind of whack, maybe? No, it's this, it was like loose.
Oh, you got it there?
Yeah. This is the check-in QR code for the event check-in, so you can be an ACM member, get invited to banquet, that whole thing. I'm sure you've heard. I'll just give everybody a couple seconds. Can everybody hear me okay? I assume so. Okay, this is Introduction to Competitive Programming. So a few things about that. One, there's a little bit of a prerequisite that, if you don't meet, it's not going to be very helpful to you. You just need to have like basic programming understanding. So in a language of your choice, be comfortable with like input and output, conditionals, loops, that sort of thing. If you don't really know how to program, then you can't really do it competitively. So, but that's all. Hopefully you all meet that condition. Second, most of competitive programming is just like pure practice. Getting good at it involves doing a lot of practice problems and learning new things. So the majority of this event is not going to be me sitting here talking. It's going to be you guys solving problems. Hopefully that will be fun. But before we get into that, I will give some background and help you set up what you need. Yeah. It's all good. Good, yeah. Okay, so what is competitive programming, first of all? Competitive programming is, it's a sport, a mind sport, where you compete against other people, whether that be like in a location, if you're in some like competition. Usually it's online. You'll compete against like 30,000 other people in some online competition. And typically it's just for the sake of doing it. There are some sponsored competitions in which there are prizes, but sort of if you go to like Code Forces, which is the main competitive programming place, it's for like ranking and bragging rights, essentially. But there are other reasons to do competitive programming, which is getting really well prepared for technical interviews, right? If you're a good competitive programmer and you can solve these problems under time, with a good algorithm, that's going to set you up really well for a Google interview or Meta interview, that sort of thing. So typically, really good competitive programmers also land really good technical jobs. Okay, so the way a competitive programming contest usually works is there's going to be some set time. You register, and then once it starts, there are a number of problems, algorithmic problems, with some time limit, some memory limit, and you're given an input, the problem statement, and an output that you need to do. So as a very simple example, you might read the question, and it says, given two numbers as input, return or print the sum of those two numbers. You're like, okay, this is easy. I go in, say Python, number 1 equals input, number 2 equals input, convert them to integers, and print out 1 plus 2, or A plus B, whatever, however you want to write it. And then you submit that code to the online judge, which then runs your code against a bunch of test cases. And if it passes all the test cases, perfect, you've solved the problem. OK, where can you do this? There are 3 sort of main sites. Codeforces is the just standard competitive programming website. This is where everybody is. It's got the most problems, and it also has like the trickiest problems, like problems that unless you're a very experienced competitive programmer, you know, if you have a doctorate in computer science, that is not going to be enough to solve this. You need years of algorithm experience. Competitive programming really is like a whole sub-niche. You have to learn crazy algorithms, and it's a ton of fun for some people. LeetCode is probably the one that you all are most familiar with. It's got a sleek user interface. It has problems that are more catered towards interview prep. So like reversing a linked list or inverting a binary tree or things like that. There's also more cheaters, which is unfortunate, but that's mostly because the base is kind of people who are maybe not into competitive programming as much, and it's more so for getting a shiny LeetCode profile or whatever. Oftentimes, like one problem from LeetCode will, like reversing a linked list, will be part of a larger solution for a problem in Codeforces. And then @Coder is a Japanese site. So some problems are in Japanese, but they also have like a lot of English problems. These are very high quality, very well written, and they have awesome beginner problems from their @Coder beginner contests. And we'll be solving those, solving some of those hopefully. But these are the 3 main ones. There are plenty of others, as you can see here. This is vjudge.net. Vjudge stands for virtual judge. And what virtual judge is it has a bunch of problems from a bunch of different competitive programming sites. So you can see Codeforces here. You can see @Coder and plenty of other ones. And what vjudge is they have like these bots that are on the site. So if you want to solve problems from a bunch of different sites or put together a contest with problems from a bunch of different sites, you can submit your code to vjudge, which will then run your code on the website from its own sort of bot. So you can mix and match, and it's really cool. Plus, for the activity that we're doing at 3:30, you will need a vjudge account to participate. So I highly recommend you sign up for that while I'm still talking. Hopefully you can pay attention as well. We're going to do kind of a mock contest, and there will be prizes for the top 3. It's not like a $100 gift card or anything, just some t-shirts, but Rowdy Hacks t-shirts. It's a little Rowdy Hacks plug as well. But this is vjudge. You'll need that account. OK, let's take a look at a sample problem. This problem is called Watermelon. It is the most solved problem on Codeforces, so hopefully it's not too big of a challenge. But this will give us kind of an introduction to how these problems work. Can everybody see it OK? A little bigger? Yeah, let me see. How's that? OK. One hot summer day, Pete and his friend Billy decided to buy a watermelon. They chose the biggest and ripest one, in their opinion. After that, the watermelon was weighed, and the scales showed W kilos. They rushed home, dying of thirst, and decided to divide the berry. However, they faced a hard problem. Pete and Billy are great fans of even numbers, as am I. That's why they want to divide the watermelon in such a way that each of the two parts weighs an even number of kilos. At the same time, it is not obligatory that the parts are equal. So if you have a 6-kilo watermelon, you could divide it into 4 kilos and 2 kilos. The boys are extremely tired and want to start their meal as soon as possible, which is why you should help them and find out if they can divide the watermelon in the way they want. And each of them needs a positive weight. So you can't divide a 6-kilo watermelon into 0 kilos and 6 kilos. So we're given an input. The first and only input line contains an integer number, W, W being how heavy the watermelon is, the weight of the watermelon bought by the boys. And you can see that here, input. And for our output, we need to print the string yes if the boys can divide the watermelon into 2 parts, each of them weighing some even number of kilos, and no in the opposite case. Okay, hopefully this isn't too big of an issue. Does anybody have any ideas how we could go about solving this? Not necessarily just code, think high level. Any ideas? Check if it's an even number. A great idea. Yeah, if you have the number 10, well, you can split that even number into 4 and 6, or 2 and 8. That sounds pretty good. Is that enough to solve the problem? Check if it's an even number. Well, let's try. So let's escape out of here. Let's go into VS Code. Actually, before we do that, and y'all can think about the problem a bit, there are 2 things that are not necessary, but are really helpful if you plan to do a lot of problems, which is the combination of this browser extension and this VS Code extension, Competitive Companion and Competitive Programming Helper. All this is going to do is, if you're on some problem, you can press this green button here, and it will fill your, fill your thing here with the test cases. So for example, if I press the button, it automatically put in, let me zoom in, it automatically grabbed all the test cases, and we can just run our code on our inputs. Okay, so watermelon.py, I've got it right here. Let's try and code up a solution. You can follow along in a language of your choice. What was your name, sorry? Joseph. Let's go with Joseph's solution. So we need to get the number. We'll call it weight. And I'm just using Python, so we'll say weight is equal to input. And since we need to make sure that this is a number, because we're going to be doing division on it, we'll call this, we'll just make sure it's an integer. So weight is equal to some integer input. And then we can just have an if statement. We say if weight modulo 2. Hopefully you all know what modulo is. It just gives you the remainder. So if we divide by 2 and get the remainder, if it's 0, that means it's even, divisible by 2. So if it's divisible by 2, then we print yes, else we print no. And then since I have this handy extension, I can just press Control-Alt-B, and it runs it on the test cases, and it passes. Really quick, to get input for a problem, you're going to read from standard in, however you do that in your language. So in Python, you just use input. For a lot of, like when I first started doing this, the way I had known to get input before was to like give the user some prompt. So like input, what's your name? But that's going to print something out, and you don't want that. You just want to grab the input. And the way that these problems work is this 8 is going to kind of automatically be routed to your standard input. So if you ask for input, it'll just go in and grab it automatically. So if you're using like C++, you use CIN, I forget, kin, sin, and cout, CIN and cout. Okay. So this looks good to me, maybe. Let's submit it. So we can copy this go to our, I'm just using VJudge here, but this is a Codeforces problem, and you can submit it directly on this link if you have a Codeforces account, although that's kind of lagging. Let's submit Codeforces 4a. What language? We are in Python. I'll do PyPy 3.10. And here's our code. And submit. Oh, I'm disconnected. Update. Oh boy. OK, I'll just submit this manually. How about that? Should be able to. OK, let's do that. There we go. All right. So it is pending. Let's see how we did. Submitted. And while this is running, each problem has a, oh, it doesn't say it here. Oh, it does. Each problem has a time limit and a memory limit. So for this problem, our time limit is 1,000 milliseconds, or 1 second. Hopefully, the language you're using is fast enough to compute whether a number is an even number in less than a second. If not, I'd suggest you switch to a new language. And the memory limit shouldn't be a problem either. Additionally, the number w here is going to be less than or equal to 100. So you don't have to worry about any sort of integer overflow or anything like that. So let's see. That's not what we want. There are my submissions. Okay, let's see. I should have stayed on that page. Oh, I submitted the cookie. I know. OK, here we go. Wrong answer on test 5. So we got a wrong answer. It passed 4 different test cases, but on test 5, something was wrong, which means we have some bad code. I'm sure there's somebody that knows why that is. Would anybody like to explain why we can't just check to see if it's an even number? We want to divide the watermelon's weight into 2 even numbers. Are there any even numbers that you can't split into 2 positive even numbers? 6, 2, and 4? Two, right. Can't split 2. I mean, you can split it into 1 and 1, but those aren't even. You could split it into 0 and 2, but it has to be positive. Positive weight. But any other even number will work. So we need to add an extra condition that it is not equal to 2. So you could do this in a variety of ways, right? But let's just do if it is even and it does not equal 2, then we print our whatever. And if you got this VS Code extension, you can add a new test case. Say our input is 2, our expected output is no. And then if we run them all, now it passes, whereas before our old code would have failed. And I can just show you what that looks like really quick. right? Input 2, our expected output was no, but we received yes, and that's no good. OK, so let's resubmit this code. Like this. Are we doing on time? 19? And it's accepted. Perfect. Does that make sense, everybody, so far? Hopefully you all followed along. OK. Wonderful. So to get you ready for the contest where y'all will be doing this yourself, this is the link. So it's vjudge.net/contest/787463. Oh, and this password is wrong. The password is ITT2426. That's just intro to tech and then the date, sort of. And I'll give people a few minutes to get there. It should start at 3:30 exactly. So while people are doing that, if anybody has any questions, I can do my best to answer them. Can't believe it's already been 20 minutes. Any questions? Yes?
Is there a preferred language?
Preferred language, that's an excellent question. The sort of standard language for competitive programming is C++ because it's very fast. It has an enormous standard library where you've got algorithms that you can just use. So it's C++, followed by, in kind of a tie, Python and Java. I've done all of my stuff mostly in Python and have been recently trying to learn and transition to C++. But I really like Python because it's very terse. You can write a lot of stuff in like one line if you're really good at Python and you know like list comprehensions and lambdas and stuff. Whereas C++, you've got a lot of things to manage, but it's still very fast. If you're just starting out, I would recommend, oh, and if you're just kind of wanting to get into this for technical interview stuff, I would recommend doing your stuff in Python because it's going to be easier to pick up if you don't already know Python. And Python is wonderful for technical interviews as well. If there's a language you're already familiar with, though, and comfortable, that's probably going to be the best, right? You should, unless you're really serious about this, you should just stick to what you know and not learn a whole other language, unless you're going to learn that language beforehand. But C++ and then Python and Java. And there are weirdos who do other stuff as well, like some functional languages. Any other questions? All right. Are we able to get here OK? Has that been working? Any problems here? OK. Let me sort of walk you through how a contest works. This is our contest. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions of particularly easy problems. But if you're new to this sort of thing, then there's probably going to be some hurdles that you'll need to jump over, so maybe not as easy as, we'll see. But the way it works is you've got 1 hour, a whole hour, to solve these problems. And the scoring looks kind of like this. You are firstly judged based on how many problems you solve, right? There is no score. What's not factored in is how your code looks, how fast it is, other than it has to be under the time limit. But if it's, if one solution is 500 milliseconds and the other is 900 milliseconds, that doesn't matter. Just that it's under the limits and that it passes all the test cases, and you're good. So you're firstly determined, first judged on how many problems you submit. If somebody solves 6 problems in 3 minutes and someone else solves 7 problems in 50 minutes, the person who solved 7 problems is going to be on top. But if you solve the same number of problems Your score is then tie broken by how long it took you to solve those problems. So if like 3 different people solved all 7 problems, but some guy solved them in 20 minutes and everybody else solved them in 50, then whoever solved them faster will be placed higher, but not the actual execution speed of the program. Additionally, if you submit your code and you get a wrong answer, or it exceeds the time limit, or there's a compilation failure or something like that, in some contests there is a time penalty, meaning that your total time, you're going to add on a few minutes in the case of a tie break. In this case, there's a penalty of 2 minutes for each wrong submission. So double check your code. But other than that, we should be good to go here in about 5 minutes. Let's see. Does anybody need help? Yes? Oh, yeah. Password is ITT2426. Are people able to get into this? Are we all good? He's good? OK. Does anybody need help logging into VJudge or anything? If you didn't get an email, it might be in your spam. That happened to Miguel while we were testing this. Also, this competition is not meant to be like super duper serious. You're allowed to like ask me for help. I'm not going to give you the full solution, but if you're like, oh, how do I get input, or am I doing this wrong, I can come over, take a look at it. Additionally, you can Google for like Python syntax or C++ or whatever language you're using. Like, how do I do this in Java? That's totally fine. What is not fine is just looking up straight solutions. It's like code forces 71A, way too long words, solution free. That's no good. Also, I would please ask you to not use generative AI for help. Ask me instead, please. Yeah, all right. Yeah, no worries. OK. So real quick, one more time, does anybody need any help getting it? Yes? Some help? What's that? I don't know what that is. If you're talking about the other extension, it's called Competitive Programming Helper, maybe? Yeah, it's this one here. Do you have the browser extension as well? Because you'll need that for the automatic pulling. But you can still like add test cases manually if you just have this extension. OK, how are we feeling? Excited? Hopefully. Has anybody done something like this before? Yeah? What was it, like a Code Forces contest or?
No, in high school they have like UIL competition.
Yeah.
And every once in a blue moon they'll have like a big competition where everyone goes in for 3 hours and you have like different groups and then there's one person on the computer.
Yeah.
And it's like problems like this.
Yeah. So real quick, we've got like a minute left. I forgot. This is the Discord link for ICPC, the sub-organization of ACM here on campus, where I will like lecture on some more advanced competitive programming principles like prefix sums and graph stuff and dynamic programming and that sort of thing. So if you're interested in that, definitely check that out. We also go to, like she was mentioning, like competitions in Houston or San Marcos or whatever to actually compete in an actual site. Our team won the Texas State, Texas-Mexico Invitational this last year, and that's coming up again. So if you want to go to that, I don't know, join the Discord. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Hope to see you at ICPC if you're interested. 20 seconds. 20 seconds. The date for the next competition. The next one should be the Texas-Mexico Invitational in San Marcos. That's coming up in, I believe it's early March. Also, Martin, I'm not sure how I'm going to handle you with this contest. Oh, and it's running. So you're off.